Since its launch in November 2015, Fresh is the Word has been a documentation of sorts for me, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier, as I journey through my love of music and pop culture, as well as using this platform to share my growth on topics important to me, which includes topics involving women's rights, people of color, and the LGBT community through the artistic lens of pop culture. As an ever-evolving podcast, I'm going back to my roots, focusing more on the music artists I'm passionate about from the past and present. From the classic hip-hop artists I grew up on, to the new faces of dance. And from the metal bands I've long appreciated, to the indie alternative artists stealing my heart. Fresh is the Word aims to tell the stories of those who need their contributions to music known, while also exposing my audience to the next artist to watch out for. Sometimes before they blow up.
Fresh is the word.
Welcome to the Fresh is the Word podcast. I'm your host, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier. And like always, we have the freshest of guests for you. For this episode, we are joined by hip-hop legend, New York MC OC of the crew Diggin in the Crates, DITC. But he's humble enough not to accept that title just yet. OC originally jumped on the scene as a guest on Organized Konfusion's Fudge Pudge, and soon after on the remix of MC Serch's Back to the Grill. OC would go on to meet the likes of Lord Finesse and Buckwild from DITC, and Buckwild would produce most of his debut album, Word Life, released in late 1994 on Wild Pitch Records, that would spawn classic records like Time's Up and Born to Live. In the summer of 1997, OC released his classic sophomore album, Jewelz, via Payday Records, but there was no sign of slump here. Fueled by the DJ Premier produced My World and the Buckwild-produced Far From Yours, OC had another classic in the books with Jewelz. OC would go on to release countless solo and collaborative albums throughout the years, still keeping his pen tight now at the age of 50. So without further ado, let's get into this interview with hip-hop legend OC. And now a brief word from our sponsor. Founded in 2015, 20 by 20 Apparel seeks to bring original tributes to pro wrestling's classic arenas, moments, and events. They look to spotlight the biggest, smallest, strangest, and strongest. They also provide an array of services. In the world of wrestling, where there are hundreds of shirts, promotions, flyers, social media accounts, and ads, don't get lost in the sea of parody shirts and display fonts. They can provide professional graphic design services at a reasonable price. 20 by 20 also hand screen prints all of their tees in-house. If you would like to discuss a possible run of tees, posters, koozies, foam fingers, even Zubaz, then drop them a line. Go to 20by20apparel.com. That's the number 20, the letter X, the number 20, apparel.com. All right, welcome back to the Fresh is the Word podcast. And like always, we have the freshest of guests for you. And we have not only a fresh guest, we got a legendary guest, a legend of hip-hop, a member of the DITC crew, Diggin in the Crates crew, and one of my favorite MCs of all time, OC. How you doing?
What's going on, K? You said legend, though. I don't know about that, man.
Come on.
Big shoes to fill. Like, Mel's still alive, Cass still alive, Flash still alive, Grand West Theodore still alive. Yo, it's a lot of legends alive, right?
And you one of them. Shit.
Hey, I thank you,
man. I think this is like the third time I've talked to you. I remember interviewing you when you did the album with Apollo Brown, good friend of mine. And then I think I interviewed you around the time when you did the album with Hyro and went on tour with them.
And I was in the D. I was in Michigan behind that tour too.
Oh yeah, you guys played The Blind Pig, and I remember that. I remember that show like it was yesterday, man, because it was like from top to bottom. That tour was amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing, and it was surreal too, because we just missed Katrina.
Yeah,
we had just left, Um, New Orleans. Yep, around like a few days before we came up y'all way. Yo, we'd have been stuck, man. That would have changed everybody's lives, even though everybody's lives changed after that anyway.
Right. Man, what I remember about that show is when you performed, man, you performed by yourself. Man,
Hmm.
no hype man or anything, and just went through every song, every classic record, and I'm just sitting there like at the side of the stage, like, yo, I can't believe what I just saw.
Yeah, nah, that's yo. I do this for real. People don't understand. Like, um, I think people see me a lot more overseas,
Yeah,
than in the states. But the overseas actually prepared me for anywhere because you can't go over there and do half a song, half a verse. Like, so, I got catalogs, so I'm doing like multiple verses. I mean, multiple things from different songs, different albums and stuff like that. But I'm doing this for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours,
yeah,
easy. But it took a long time to learn to rock like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, figuring how to keep the crowd's attention and breath control, and that's why I said that legend thing is, before you call somebody a legend, you got to see how they rock, see what they do, see what their track record look like. And I've performed with PE, I've performed with KRS, I perform with Kane, I perform with a lot of people, and they get busy.
yeah. And I've
So
seen you
you just
perform, and man, you one of the best MCs to like when you hit the stage. You're one of the best MCs I've ever seen.
thank you, man. I just learned from them, man. Like, you can't slack, and I've seen people perform from a fan standpoint, and they got a million people on stage, man. It's just
Yeah,
like, this is my favorite artist, but who's rocking him or
right.
So it just taught me to go hard on stage and take it way serious than just making the music.
Man, and you still out here working, man. You still putting out joints. You still putting out joints with
Hmm.
other people. But like these days, man, we're like, you know, we're losing legends all the time. Like recently we
Hmm.
lost Black Rob, we lost DMX.
Shock G,
Shock G,
yeah,
man, and
Ecstasy from Houdini, um, Prince Monkey D from Fat Boy. Yo, we lost quite a few people.
so man, how are you doing, man? Health wise, man. Like what's going on, man?
I'm in shape, homie. I'm in shape.
Yeah.
Nah, I mean, I'm doing well, man. I just turned 50 last week, so
Oh yeah, man. Happy birthday.
thank you. So, you know, I'm doing good. I'm taking care of my body best as I could. Eat right as best as I could. I'm no angel, but I don't do the things I used to do 20 years ago. You know what I'm saying? I ain't no heavy drinking no more. I hardly even drink liquor anymore. Um, Nothing wrong with it, but just it's not my thing anymore. Um, I don't smoke cigs no more. You know what I'm saying? I just try to be mindful. I know I'm not getting younger. I'm getting older,
Yeah.
and I gotta preserve what I have.
How do you sort of like just kind of keep your just mental health these days also?
Um, yeah, I told you I moved out of New York too. That preserved a lot of my stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, growing up in New York is one thing. Being a young adult in New York, during the '90s and the 2000s is another thing. But it was time for me to go, man. Like, I never listened to my intuition, so to speak, all my life, like all my adult life. And something told me to make a change, and that meant, like my circumstances, my surroundings. Yo, I feel good, man. Like, I just feel good.
How hard was that to finally make that step?
Wasn't hard at all. Like, I wish I made this transition maybe 20 years ago. Like, when I was, in my early 20s or late 20s, early 30s, because um financially, mentally, I would have been a whole way ahead of the curve. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you already know what kind of business we in. Like, you got to be on top of your finances. And I ain't no accountant, man, but I've been lucky, and that's we can't get by on luck. You know what I'm saying? In this world, like you have to really know what you're doing and have some idea at least, and can't rap all my life either.
Right, right. You have a vast catalog. There's undeniable, classic hip hop records that
Mm-hmm.
you've done. You've been on major labels before, but
Mm-hmm.
you were never like on the mainstream, like on the radio all the time. And
Right.
you see other artists who went that route, and it kind of it went a bad way.
Right.
Do you ever think about what if you went that way, or if you like this path better?
Nah, I mean, I knew I always, well, I've told quite a few people as of late, like, for me, if I was chasing fame, it was probably in my first year, of making music, and then I got a reality check because a lot of people didn't have a chance to do a sophomore album,
Yeah.
and like I said, I didn't think about money at the time, so I did it wholeheartedly for the love of the music, from a fan standpoint, from a supporter of other people's music standpoint, just for the art, for the sport. It changed my perspective after the first album. It was like, oh wow, like what I'm gonna do after this if this don't work, and how people gonna, you have people like Nas and uh Jay and all these other guys that went on 20 years later, 30 years later, to become successes and billionaires and
Yeah,
things of
yeah.
that nature. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I said, man, I'm lucky. Um, People still mess with me. You know, Another thing I always tell people too, I go by everyday life. So this is why the content can keep coming from, what I'm saying? It might not come as fluent as the younger guys like every week or every month because that's not how I process music. But I've been putting out projects since maybe 2012 up until now. You know what I'm saying? Since trophies, I've been, rocking. And I got damn near what I'm gonna say 20 solo albums almost. Like so. People be like, "Yo, when your next project?" I'm like, "Yo, I put out Same Moon, Same Sun 3 years ago, and then I dropped New Dawn a year after." So like,
Like,
and then prior to that, I had Debonair P record, I had this record, I had the Opium with PF Cut. I'm like, "Yo, what do y'all want me to do? Like, put out an album every week? Like, that's crazy."
you're like, I got records, man. I got a lot of records.
And like, yo, my stuff, speaking for me, you have to digest it, and some of it is easy to digest. Like, so it ain't like it's not out there. It's not like I'm not telling y'all it's there. And not to take up the whole conversation for a second, but I try to tell people too, like with social media, I can open up my page as welcoming as possible, but the reason why I restrict certain things because 36,000 people on my page is more like my actual fans, as opposed to 100,000 or 200,000 people. All them people are just follow. Some of them don't even know who I am if I'm up to those type of numbers, unless I'm Jay-Z or one of them.
Yeah.
So it makes no sense in my mind, and I try to tell people, yeah, I can open my page up and probably get 200,000-300,000 followers, but it won't be true to who I, who really knows who I am or just started, knowing about. You know what I'm saying? And people don't understand that sometimes.
When we go back to you mentioned, being able to put out a sophomore album with Jewelz. When you go, that came out at a time when shortly after there was a huge just switch in the record industry when it came to hip hop. Like by 98, like the people who were putting out major label records in 96 and 97 weren't putting out major label records anymore in 98. And you were kind of on that border right there with Jewelz. So what was your experience like putting out that record when the music industry was going through this shift at that time?
Well, I seen it go through we both seen it, shiny suit era. You seen the, people was just, at some point, people don't understand either. Like, you can't, most artists aren't, don't have the luxury of making the same record over and over and over, right? So, you have a formula you stick to. This is what people want. Yo, why you ain't get Word Life? I need Word Life again. It's like, I ain't in that chamber no more. That was 94. You're a different person right after the next day, like literally.
And even back then, like hip hop changed every year so drastically that even during that golden era, 94 and 96 were vastly different.
Right. And, my point leading up to it is, somebody like DMX. He came in totally raw. Was it no filter? Was it no polish?
Right.
It was his dogs. It was the bark. It was grime. And he changed the paradigm. And I hate to talk about that now, and I hate saying the word hate, but DMX is probably one of the reasons why the music business started to shift.
Yeah. And it's fathomable, it's arguable to say that when DMX dropped, even somebody like Jay-Z had to switch up his game totally.
Everybody had to switch up, and D had, bless him too, man. Like that, that's a major loss. Like he's probably one of the most honest artists, whether hip hop, whatever genre of music you want to think about. He was just one of the most honest artists, period. But he had 2 number ones in the same year. Like he brought Def Jam back, like. You know what I'm saying? And I've been saying this. I've been yelling this for a long time. Like, y'all don't got him in the top since y'all want to talk all this top stuff. But, Jewelz for me, it was on the cusp. It was 3 years in between records. I was touring. I was becoming well known. I was making my bones, making my rounds. And then dude came through and changed the whole game. Like Jay had to change it up, Nas had to change it up, Wu had to change it up. Everybody who was putting out records prior to that had to change up their slickness.
Yeah, that and it's crazy that like just during that time that like you said, you're on that cusp of this new thing happening. And back in the 90s, like I just mentioned, every year was just different in hip hop. It was crazy. Like someone, looking back at that time, what's your, perception about that? What's your thoughts about that? About, just staying along with everything, keeping up with everything?
Well, I think it was just a lot of talented artists. Everybody was different. Content wise, it started getting little monotonous in a sense, but nobody sounded the same at some point. You had people that had a voice. You had people that had just straight lyricism. You had people that had style. Like it was so many facets of artists coming out. It was different for us, and it kept us on our toes as artists too, with each other. Like it was a friendly competition, so to speak. Like I had a conversation with Fredro recently from Onyx, because me and Dude was from the same hood, but we never really spoke to each other, and we never knew why. Like he come into place, we would nod, stuff like that. But we never had conversations, and we both basically chalked it up to us being young and assholes, and not just too cool for school, egos and stuff like that. But I'm actually an Onyx fan, like a big Onyx fan. Like, I seen Throw Your Guns from its inceptions. I seen the Last Day record from its inception. I seen all these things, and I was just like, and we laughed about it, man. Like damn, we didn't even speak to each other really.
Yeah, it was crazy back then because you would see all this talent, but like a lot of times you guys kind of stuck to your crews, and then later on during like in the next decades and stuff, then y'all started collaborating, and a lot of us were like, yo, we would have loved that in the 90s.
Yeah, not too much though, but it happened a few times. It happened quite a few times, but everywhere else was collaborating, down south, Midwest, West Coast, and some of them dudes' crews was at war with each other back then. You know what I'm saying? Gangs, just dudes from different blocks, stuff like that. But they would make money or come together to make music, and that's where New York probably lost a lot of his oomph, because we had a lot of major dudes coming out of NY. A lot of us wasn't making music together.
Yeah. Over the years, you worked with a lot of the same producers, a lot of the your crew members in DITC. Diamond D, Lord Finesse, Showbiz. Like,
I never produced a beat on my album. That's crazy. Diamond never produced.
Oh, he never. Anything. Oh, he never did. Oh,
yeah. I had to tell somebody that recently because they was like that. I was like, yo, no, wait a minute. Like, nah, Diamond.
It's like almost an assumption, You'd be like, oh, you probably.
I assumed it, but I had to think for a second, like, oh wow, Diamond never did none of my albums, and he submitted. We just never found a joint that I felt like it wasn't that it was whack, and his joints was dope. It was just, to me, he had the perfect things for like Busta and all of them. Yeah. Like, to me, everybody's just not made at the moment. You know what I'm saying?
But yeah, you worked with, you had these, for a lot of your work, you had these set guys that you were working with, your crew members, Buckwild, Showbiz, Primo and everything. How did
Finesse, yeah.
Yeah, how did you, just kind of keep a really cool working relationship with these guys, over the years where, you could probably holler at any of those guys right now and be like, let's work.
I mean, we worked in the same studio. We all was in D&D. Smith & Wesson was in D&D, the whole boot camp. Rockefeller, MOP. I mean, the list goes on, man. Like, you had Group Home, you had J-Rule, you had the whole Gangstar Foundation. You had everybody coming through that studio, so we was all, beat miners. And I never really worked with too many people outside of my circle production-wise, because a lot of people ain't want to mess with me in the beginning. I mean, I ain't gonna put them on blast and say no names, but a lot of people ain't want to mess with me at first. I wasn't proven, so to speak. That's how I take it.
Right. What was the feeling like at D&D when you're just like, all these guys that are just popping at that time, starting to just really buzz in hip hop, just coming through back and forth, in these studios, man. What was sort of the climate?
Oh, come on, man. It was electric, man. Like I said, you had Biggie going through there. You had Ruck and Rock. You had, like I said, you just had so many different personalities that, like I said, some of us all of us were cool with each other, but it was still, that look of competition when people were working. And it was usually people on the pool tables, weed smoke, drinking, a lot of that, you know, females in the studio and just fun, partying and stuff like that. Going to a club, coming back to the studio, completing the project or completing songs and things of that nature. And we all did it. So it was just it was a normal thing. That's how I look at it. It was normal to see, like I said, Jay and Big and them was a lot more successful, on the charts and stuff. So you see less of them, but Premier I see every day. Guru I would see every day. J Rule, of course my crew. Show would be in the studio, 24 hours in the Cream. So you would just see people like it was normal.
After the Jewelz album and after you're seeing this shift in the rap industry, around, like 97, 98, like where was your head at that time? Because, I know you, there would be a crew album with the, Diggin in the Crates crew album. And then you would eventually do the Bon Appetit album. Where were you at that time, kind of dealing with that shift?
Just trying to find myself. Like I said, what people don't understand what music is, you're going through stages, you're growing, you're actually getting older by the minute. We all getting older by the minute, second, right? So, you trying to figure out what didn't you talk about on the last album, the last two LPs, people's perception of you, becoming manhood, becoming an adult, a responsible adult. I didn't know what that was, even though I was in my 20s. And, years later down the line, people were just coming around to Bon Appetit, for example, but a lot of people was calling me sellout, trying to get radio records off this album, and they actually did that with Jewelz, early on too, but it wasn't as bad as what they tried to do me on with Bon Appetit. And I was just like, yo, like, if y'all think about it, I ushered in another style of music with that record. After that record came Jay-Z's The Blueprint. Quite a few records came out that was soulful after that. But I just ate the bullet. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you not pioneer something, so to speak, because it was soul samples happening, but
yeah, but records like that or Ghostface's Supreme Clientele were highly influential to what Jay-Z and a lot of other people was going to be doing after that. Right, exactly. And to me, that Ghost is my man. Like, we mirror, being New Yorkers in as well, but we mirror similar styles of music. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, people just don't understand sometimes growth. Like, the supporters, I hate saying fans too, man. I hate saying the word hate, so excuse me. But people don't understand, man, when you making music, it's hit or miss. Like, you might not like everything that I do, and it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like everything that one of my heroes that I look up to does, but if that's something that he chose to experiment with or he had his reasons for it, I look at it from the artist perspective when I look at my heroes. But I love everything Slick Rick do. People like, second album, I'm like, yeah. But the music, I'm like, yeah, but I don't, from a writer standpoint, I don't look at it from the music. I look at it from his, what he's saying in his verses and how he put that song together. I'm an artist. I'm not a rapper. I ain't been a rapper since I got a deal. My artistic thing is flowing now. Like, I don't look at Pharaoh as no artist. I mean, as a rapper no more. I don't look at Black Thought as a rapper. Like,
I think them dudes is instruments.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, you know, and
And unless
I
you,
don't
when you're an artist, and unless you know, you have to take those risks, those
right.
ideas that
And
you have.
you might daggers thrown at you behind that, but that's what you do when you put yourself out there. You
And
know,
yeah, and
it's the same thing with
how many times do you hear
podcast.
stories about like beats that somebody like the Neptunes did that got passed over by a million rappers, but like
Yeah,
someone like Snoop Dogg would you know, take it on and it'd be one of their biggest hits, you know, that he ever did, you know?
no, that's a perfect segue. Nori was the first guy to deal with the Neptune,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
for real, and people, what, like they was like, what, like in the music, it was so driven and it was different, and you
It was
know,
so different than anything that was coming out of like New York at the time and everything, and it was like, yo, what's this? Yo, it goes hard, but this is
became
kind of weird,
Nori's
man.
biggest hits. It's one of Nori's biggest hits.
Right.
Like, and like you said, Snoop. Fast forward, Snoop, was messing with him. Even Jay, but you know, people just don't want different sometimes. Like, to me personally, I don't think a lot of my supporters now are people my age. It's people, a little younger than me. Because the ones that's my age, they used to one way. They got a family, they work, they, they paying bills and doing the home thing and stuff like that. So they want word life, they want Jewelz, they want that stuff. And I ain't mad at her for that, but I have to tell them sometimes, like, yo, you gotta just listen to same old same son. It's a great album. They like, I'll go for word life. I'm like, well, I've been 30 years removed for that album, so I don't know what to tell you.
Right. Like
That was then.
that's you then, you know, that's where you're at
I'm a
then, you know.
totally different person in '94. Like, so you want me to really do another album like that?
And
Like when I was a
everybody's
kid,
producing on that album are different people now, you know, different artists.
you a different person. I was different right after that album got mastered. The day it was done, and this is what I try to explain to people. But like I said, when people are set in their ways about certain things, I just leave it at that. I know I have a fan base for this, and then a particular fan base for this now. So I cater to both.
Where's your fan base coming from these days? You know, you said like they're a bit younger than you, um, and that's, you know, that's definitely an amazing sort of feat for a rapper that's, you know, an hip hop artist that's been around as long as you have. You know, you know how, you know, where does that come from?
Maturity, like, I'm not trying to make music to please anybody, and I never did. I always did music according to what I've been through or what somebody else been through close to me, or even people outside of my friend zones or whatever. If it might be a word to trigger me to write a song or something that a stranger said. Everyday life. This is my motto from the past 10 years. I write from everyday life, everyday experiences, supermarket, the laundromat, jogging, um, going walking to the mailbox, like, and yo, it's always things going on, contrary to what we think. Like, it's always something going on. Like, I seen a black and orange spotted turtle today. I never seen turtles in New York, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I seen a square turtle today after it rained real hard. And I'm like, damn, like, but I know I'm mindful where I'm at. I know it's snakes out here. I know it's wolves. I know it's deer, stuff like that. But the change. I'm about change, man. When it comes to music, and I go from everyday experiences. It don't have to necessarily be me though.
For such a long time, hip hop was always branded this, this young man's thing. When did you sort of like say, fuck this? Like, I'm getting older and I'm still going to be doing this as long as I want to.
Well, we all getting older, right?
Yeah.
But this is what I tell people. Um, on paper, I'm older than hip hop. Hip hop's been around as long as me, but in the music business, it's not even 50 years old yet. I think the anniversary came up what last year, 48, 49, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm older than hip hop on paper, so it's still a young game. Like, it's probably the most influential music, ever, but it's still young. 50 years old for a, a, a genre of music is not old. You know what I'm saying? But on the flip side of that coin, this is the only game in the music business that you're old or considered old, when you put out music after a certain amount of time, which is, it don't happen in country, it don't happen in rock, it don't happen in Latin, it don't happen in reggae
Right.
or dancehall. Only hip hop. I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, here in Detroit, we have this amazing, well of talent in hip hop, for so many years. But there was a time where a lot of them were kind of going for like the rap dreams, the hip hop dreams,
Right.
the record deals and everything. But what
Right.
happened was that a lot of them stepped away for a little bit, when did their day jobs or started a business or whatever, and then they came back to it, just come back to it with just love and just to do it, and they started putting out the best records that they ever put out, and this is like
That's
so
a
many
lot,
artists.
Detroit, man. But look at the history though of music in general. This Motor City, man. Like, come on, like the music history. This is the hub of black music. You talking about your city?
Yeah.
Like, they turned on the whole planet. Think about that. Like, just that whole Motown movement just turned out a whole planet. Like, we changed the way people looked at music, listen to music. Um, I think the D directly and indirectly it broke color lines. You understand? Like,
Yeah.
you couldn't dance together, black and white, years ago.
Yeah.
Motown came on the scene, and it's just a rich history out there. And to me, with the despair and everything that goes on out there, man, you're gonna have some diamonds. Like, you're gonna have a lot of diamonds, pressurized diamonds, man. Like, pressure makes diamonds, man. And New York, yeah, hip hop, home of hip hop or whatever. But no disrespect to my city, but you know, a lot of things ain't come from NY. If you think about sampling, who was the people that would be sampled from? Most of them are Southern artists. Most of them were Southern musicians, Caribbean musicians, and stuff like that. Like, it goes that deep. The well goes that deep. But New York was just a hub for record labels and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? If you wanted to be a star, so to speak, you go to New York. Hopefully, you make it. Hopefully, you get by. But your city, man, your city got something in the water, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, and we never really, like during the Motown, age, it was kind of a hub for all that in with the music industry. But after that,
Mhm.
we really weren't. So just the way our city is, it kind of always made it hard for Detroit artists to make that step into, being, getting those record deals and everything, because there
right,
really wasn't any like, there's no one to teach you how to deal with that shit, here in
yeah,
Detroit. There was none of that. And a lot of opportunities were squandered by, Detroit artists because they didn't know how to deal with it, whether it
right.
was just not putting in the time or getting into, crimes and violence and stuff like that,
Yeah.
not putting that
But
stuff
that's what I
beyond there.
mean by the despair. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you remember the uh pictures me and Apollo took, like for
Yeah.
me to take um for the album cover for trophies and the insert and stuff like that. For me to take a picture in front of Detroit Stadium, where they play the Detroit Tigers playing
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and then a few feet away it's like an empty school, but this is around the city, like
Yeah.
empty
Yep.
projects. I've never seen that like that in my life. You know what I'm saying? And Apollo was like, yo, oh, this is like the whole Midwest. Like, this ain't just Detroit. This is Indiana. This is St. Louis. This is,
Yeah, if you go down to
that.
Ohio, man, you're
This
like,
is how. Yeah.
there's
And
parts
I'm
where
like, what?
you think like zombies are about to come out, man, because you're like,
Exactly. Like, yo, that shit. I didn't. Yo, it just it blew my mind to see that. So to come back home and look at our projects and can't imagine those projects being empty. Like I couldn't imagine that. Like it was the same looking projects, man. And I was just like, yo, I seen projects and I'm telling people in my hood and they like, word, yeah. So when the album and I'm like, yo, they not even here. Like they not here. I seen empty projects. Like look at my album cover. You can look through the projects behind me and Apollo. Like
yeah.
it's empty. Tall story projects, like tall projects, man. I'm like, yo, schools, public schools, abandoned, playgrounds, abandoned. They like, yeah, 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 yeah. Like they didn't understand what until you put people in those circumstances firsthand, then they'll see it. But I seen it. I seen it firsthand. And I was just like,
And then coming
you
from New
know,
York, where everything's like just crammed together, like,
right.
and I bet like you first noticed this maybe like the first time you toured, how much vast land there is in the U.S. and
Right.
this, but then when you get into these cities like Detroit, there's all this vast land that's like not used, or decrepit
Yeah.
or anything like
Yeah.
that. And it's kind of a crazy thing to see,
Yeah.
that like, you could be like, yo, you could be farming here or you could be building up things here, but there's like, it's so desolate. It's mind blowing.
It's desolate and yo, to go through places like Indiana and stuff like that and see hood, like it was just weird to me, man. Like you just said, me coming from New York, we had abandoned lots and stuff like that, a lot of burnt down. Well, the Bronx mainly had a lot of burnt down buildings. Like you can walk, literally across this block to the next block because it was decimated buildings. But Brooklyn and Queens, not so much. Like if you move from Brooklyn to Queens, that was a big deal. Like my parents moved from Brooklyn to Queens when I was a kid. That means you made it, so to speak, if you can buy a house in Queens. And, but to see other places, man, like even, Europe, like made me appreciate, growing up more. You know what I'm saying? Like Europe and seeing the Midwest, it made me appreciate growing up more because I'm like, yo, I was living good compared, how people living in the Midwest and overseas. Like it's crazy.
And the weird thing is about in the Midwest is that like instantly you can go from a really shitty neighborhood to a really nice neighborhood without even
Right.
like in 1 second. And it's almost like there's this carrot being dangled to the people who are impoverished. Like there's
Exactly.
like you like here in Detroit, you can there's like one of the casinos, like one of the casino hotels, like
Hmm.
you can, it's so bright that you can see it from every rundown neighborhood around it. It's kind of like remember Back to the Future after Biff
Right,
becomes rich and has that big hotel
right.
casino. It's like the same thing, and it's like
Like I said,
it's like
man,
that
it's
carrot being dangled, you know?
yeah. Like I said, the stadium. Being in Detroit, or here's even one better. Um, Apollo was telling me about a lot of the buildings that were in the Transformer movie,
Yeah,
and I was like, these, like the way it look on film and on camera, it's a whole different planet. But to see the buildings up close in person, I'm like, this is damn, like this is desolate. Like you know what I'm saying? Like yo, and to go on blocks and see, and this wasn't just in Detroit. This was going, like I said, going into Milwaukee and stuff like that, where you have a house on the block, and then you have no houses in the next few feet, and then you go down to the next block, it's a house, and then it's all abandoned. It's just like, yo, this is crazy, man. But like I said, I've always been taught, and I've learned people who go through that much poverty and then that impoverished and that much despair and just little hope usually be the ones that turn out to be superstars.
yeah. It's and I can like my when I grew up, I grew up right off of 8 Mile here, and
Hmm.
I was like that last generation where 8 Mile meant white people are on this side, black people are on this side, you know. And the thing that I just felt and heard all the time was, okay, you got to watch out for those people on the other side, you know.
Right, right,
And just being who I was, and I just naturally was, like I was naturally into music from an early age. Like Jimi
right,
Hendrix was like my first favorite love, you know. So,
right,
just learning from him, was a lot. And
right,
I was just like, the people over, but those people, on the other side can't be that bad, you know. So I always
right.
kept like a, open mind about it. And then next thing you know, I'm like, as I'm growing up, I'm like, all this stuff that I've always heard from people about people that live in like rundown neighborhoods and everything, like it's so wrong. There's so much there's so much creativity to come out of so much heart and passion to come out of you know of those communities.
Right. Well, black and white, that's what people don't understand. Black and white, are talented. Like, um, I mean, shit, Bette Midler and people like Barbara Streisand and them is from our neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah,
might have been on the other side, but Bette Midler's from Queens.
yeah,
You understand? Like these people. So it's a lot more politics and other stuff that goes into that plays into stuff like that. And we're just adults and smart enough to know it now, but they definitely kept the color lines and stuff like that when we was kids and growing up. And they didn't want uh those type of situations going on where people's like, it didn't matter if you was black or white, we all starving or we all going through it. You know what I'm saying? And you learn, man. You learn as you get older. It's like, nah, it's not about the color all the time. Like it's a lot deeper than that. It's
yeah,
haves and have-nots.
yeah. You kind of mentioned it before, but what was your childhood like? What kind of a kid were you?
And I'm the last of four, so um I'm the baby. So you already know. I was spoiled, but I wasn't spoiled where I got everything that I wanted. You know, I had a great childhood. I seen. I mean, this is why me and you are having a conversation. I seen the park jam. I was there for the park jam. I was in the middle of a park jam. Like I've seen Divine Sounds, stacked speakers. I seen Rufus featuring Shaka Khan in Prospect Park as a kid. I seen all of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like my mom's took us. We went to free concerts. Shaka Khan, KC and the Sunshine Band. Um, uh, I didn't get to see Bob Marley. I think my mom's got to see him, but you know, we went to see bands, Earth, Wind and Fire and stuff like that. Grateful Dead in Prospect and Central Park. I had a great childhood.
You know, how was your family very supportive of you becoming an actual like hip hop artist?
Um, my mom's was definitely like, yo, you can't let nobody stop how you feel, what you want to do, and she was the first one to tell me, like, if you never fall on your face trying to do something, then you're gonna always be where you at. Like, you know, it's this thing today, man. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, so to speak, but everybody was talking about win, 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 win. It's just like that's not reality. Like you
Right.
don't win all the time. Nobody wins all the time. Like where y'all get this from, man? Like, I'm up and you know, I'm a win and that's all and God got me and it's like, yo, everybody loses. Everybody.
Yeah. Everybody takes an L sometimes.
Everybody you're always gonna take L's in life. But it's your bounce back. That's what proves what kind of person you are deep inside. Your bounce back. Everybody's always on this winning shit, man. It's be like, yo, man, I ain't win all the time. As a kid, as a teenager, young adult, or as an adult senior now, I mean, it's probably the best time of my life right now. And I only just turned 50, but my priorities in my mind are in order now. Like I ain't the same guy I was 20 or 10 years ago. You know, I ain't worrying about a Range Rover or, how big my house is or I don't care about those things. It really doesn't matter to me at this point. Like as long as I'm happy, my mental state is good, it's decent and I take L's. That's what makes me a human being.
Outside of like the music stuff that you kind of grew up with and everything, what was New York like for you? Growing up as a kid, teenager. What was some of the stuff that what really sticks out to you about New York?
I traveled a lot as a kid. Um, on the trains, man. We did the trains as kids. Like that was something different now that I look back growing up in New York. Like, in our single digit, getting on the train, 5 years old, all the way up to 9 years old, like taking the subway. The subway was bad, but we didn't feel like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so taking the subways and um just what me and you was talking about. For example, I grew up I had a spot in a place called Ridgewood, which they turned in turn called Glenwood, uh, Glendale now in Queens. But Ridgewood was the Italian side. We couldn't go on that side when we was kids. We used to get chased as children, like by grown Italian teenagers. You know what I'm saying? Like, and fast forward, me living there later on, before I moved out here, it was like, damn, I told my wife, like, yo, I couldn't even come on this side when I was young. Like, we would get, chased out or but worse. You know what I'm saying? So New York was a gumbo, uh, in one neighborhood, Irish, Puerto Rican, Polish, and we all was cool with each other. Dominican, Panamanian, and and then you have down. That's not even talking about downtown Brooklyn. Flatbush and stuff like that, where the Caribbean influence is heavy. Jamaicans, Haitians, the Trinidadians, the Guyanese, like so. It was just a big gumbo, man, and I think it set a lot of us up in the music business, with friends and stuff like that and connections because I went to school with all facets of people, like, and this is New York, you know what I'm saying? And I say all that to say, for example, I brought somebody from the West Coast years ago, and we was in a spot called Jimmy's Bronx Cafe, and he grew up in Cali, you know what I'm saying? So he like, yo, we don't hang with the essays. Not that I ain't got no essay homies, but
yeah,
y'all up in a spot with all these Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and blacks. Like, we good here? And we was like, yo, we good. Like, you good. But after time over the years, him coming back and forth to New York, he got comfortable with it. But he like, yo, man, they made separation out in Cali. Like, a lot of the essays, a lot of us are homies, but for the majority and for the most part, you can, it's the essay hood, it's the Mexican hood, and it's the black hood. Period.
Right.
New York, it wasn't like that.
Growing up in New York, what's something you would think, like, what's something you would say is like your biggest like lesson? Like what did New York like teach you, like as a person?
Taught me to be confident. It just taught me, I don't know how that sounds. I don't want to come off egotistical or nothing like that, but it just taught me confidence. Like
yeah,
I said,
you were 5 years old on the trains, man.
and I wasn't the only one. Like, kids rode like, they had a strip, 42nd Street on 42nd. It was all X-rated, adult booths and stuff like that. Rapists, killers, thieves, pimps, hoes, you name it. Everything went on. And, but they had game rooms over there we used to love going to.
Yeah.
So, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, ride the train to go to 42nd Street and play the games and, ignoring the hole in the corner and the pimp slapping the hole. Like, yo, we seen this was normality, even though it's not something normal, but it was normality to see these things and not be afraid so much, just keep your distance and, don't talk to strangers. And, it was just a different, it was a different way of being and thinking, growing up in New York.
Getting back to your discography, later in your career, you would do a lot of collaborative albums, like you did Trophies with Apollo Brown or Opium with P.F. Cuttin. Like, at what point were you like, yo, I'm gonna start doing these projects with all these other dudes, not just the cats from my crew?
I mean, if you don't recall, like I said, when me and you had the interview, for the Trophies album, like me and Apollo had a long conversation, and I say all that to say when I did the project with P.F. Cuttin, we had a long conversation, and what's eerie about that one is though, maybe a month prior, I went to PF's crib to do some, he would engineer. He was an engineer. He's an engineer, so he would lay verses. If I needed to do 16s for people, I would pay him and he was letting me hear all this music from him and Sean P, which I know as Ruck. I mean, Sean P is his real name, but we know Ruck.
Yeah.
So,
dude, there was a while where I'm like, yo, who's Sean P? And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
Ruck.
Yeah. And he let me hear music that Ruck wasn't using. I was just like, so a lot of this stuff you hear on Opium ended up being stuff that Ruck turned in. And I was like, word, like, but everybody has a different ear.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And also, you know, I told him and I told my own crew member at some point, like, yo, I'm tired of picking music, man. I need somebody to just produce me. Pick all the music and I'll just write to.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we need to get back to that. And that's where the Apollo thing happened. You know, that's where the PF thing happened. That's where the Same Moon and the New Dawn with Showbiz happened. Cause I was just like, yo, man, like, people ain't produced no more. Like, what happened to the Howie T, Chubb Rock, Pete Rock, CL?
How did that
You
feel
know,
for you to
the
like
stuff.
go that route?
It felt good because all I did, and it's not no big formula to it. All I do now when I do these collaborative projects like that is get a whole bunch of music, write a whole bunch of songs, and basically we kick a lot of songs to the curb and keep the best ones. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. That's the process. Like, I just have fun recording. I recorded a lot of records, and you know, we narrow them down, and then we start, you know, seasoning the ones that we might keep or we know are keepers and stuff like that. And boom, next thing you know, in the next month or two, you got an album. But I'd rather be produced than me, you know, going through that process anymore, just picking music, you know, for my projects. And, you know, I'm an executive producer then. You know, I wasn't getting those credits for that. Like, not to take anything from the producer, but, you know, most of my albums, I picked the music. People gave me stuff. I either listened to it, you know, I either kept it or I did, or, you know, I brought concepts to the table for the music. And, you know, I wasn't getting no cold credit for that. You know what I'm saying? So after a while, I was just like, yo, you know, it's not a big deal, but why don't y'all just pick everything, man? Pick what you think I should rhyme on. And I'll just write to it.
Yeah, and these days, you know, I always see your name popping up on other people's records. You know, you're still like, you know, doing features for cats.
Mm-hmm.
How has that you know, relationship with other artists kind of you know, stayed throughout the years?
See, that's me right now. Like, I'm opening up. Before, I was a little more closed, like not even closed minded. Just I was boxing myself in, not, you know, what's the word? Basically not talking to my peers or being not I wasn't being friendly. It was just, you know, people just thought I wouldn't make music with them. And it was just like, why you say that? Like, yo, you just got this look. And I'm like, that look. Like, and yo, I had to really look at myself in the mirror. You know, this is with all the changes that was happening before I came and left New York. And it was just like, yo, man, I don't want people to look at me like I'm that serious that they can't say nothing to me, or yo, I dig your music. Perfect example of that is Petey Crack. I met Petey Crack a few years ago, and he came up to me. Petey is real outgoing, so he was just like, yo, man, OC, right? I was like, hey, what's up, man? Petey. Like, I know. And he was like, yo, I was raised on your music. And I looked at him like, what? Like, nah. And he was like, yeah, man. Like, yo, like, you raised us. Like, you wanted a guy, like, you and a lot of other cats raised who we, and we had a conversation and we exchanged numbers. And it was actually the same night I met Rakim for the first time. Me, Showbiz was together that night. We was up in a party and we met Rakim, but I met Petey. You know, Petey's a good dude, and I invited him to the studio, and I got some music with him. Bottom line is, I got some music with him that people never heard. You know, hopefully I'll let that go one day. But yo, it just rang my bell when he said that. Like, yo, man, you know your music raised us, right? I'm like,
See, see, tell you,
right?
man.
And I was just like, yo, man, I appreciate you. And I love that whole state property. Like, I love what they was doing and
Yeah.
how they was getting busy and how their camaraderie seemed and looked and how they was going at artists. Like, yo, like, we'll battle any, like, they was that. I just love their whole energy. So, and Petey Crack is probably one of my favorite artists because it's diversity. You know what I'm saying? He has that voice. Freeway has that voice as well. You know what I'm saying? And they get busy.
Yeah.
They whole crew busy. Lil Chris, Neef, Beanie. You know, to me, Beanie should have been a superstar, but you know.
Yo, Beanie's one of my another one of my favorite MCs of all time.
Yeah, I mean, Beans couldn't leave him. Well, the streets couldn't leave him alone, but
Yeah.
you know, toe to toe, bar for bar, you know, Beanie was next in line for that crown holder. You know what I'm saying? If you know that thing people chase, and he wasn't chasing it. He was just that ill. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know, I just like they whole clique, man. And I say all that to say, man, it just made me open my eyes. Like, yo, I gotta stop being standoffish with my peers. You know what I'm saying? And you know, smile a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Like, because those, you know, Petey he wasn't, you know, he approached, yo, OC, right? I'm like, yeah, what's up, man? Petey, I know you. And he like, yo, man, you know, and it just threw me off. And I was just like, wait, what? Like, nah. He's like, yeah. Like, and he knows his stuff. But it's a lot of artists like that know the game. They know the music. They're in love with the music. And it just changed my whole way of thinking of how I look at my peers.
Over the past few years, there's been kind of like this movement where you're seeing these hip hop artists kind of take everything and do everything themselves, very DIY, where they might, you know, okay, you can get our music on the streaming services, but I'm going to sell you, you know, we wouldn't have this vinyl of a project, you know, but I'm going to make it look special. we're going to have low amount of pressings, different variants or whatever. It's going to be special. This is going to be high art, and they might price it at a higher price than your usual record, but at the same time they're coming with this confidence of putting value back into their art. You know, like, you know, what's your thoughts about that?
You just answered the question. Putting value back into the art, your art. Like, for example, I think I seen on Bandcamp one time, I seen some Griselda shit, like, and they wanted like $100 for a 7-inch or something like that, and it was sold out.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And I was like, damn, that's dope. Nipsey did it.
Yeah,
you know, a lot of people doing it. And yo, it does bring value back to the game, man. Like, this is where, like I said, the game is still young. We making mistakes as we go along, you know, and we making mistakes as well by not chastising the people who saying, yo, like, after a year or two in the game, you a has-been. Like, you know, we should have put that to rest a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like, yo, not even on no BS, man, but MC Breed. Come on, man. Like, Tupac, like, these dudes, you know, Pac was Breed had a lot to do with Pac having a presence as well. But you got to get minds right. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, people don't understand the value in ourselves, and I'm learning. You know, I just did that recently, man. I just liquidated some stuff under my you know, literally from under my stairs, and I'm like, $30, and they like, I'll give you 80. I'm like, what? Like, wait a minute. Nah. So they like, no, man, I'll give you 80 for that. And I'm just like, yo, but the record is used. And they like, nah, you OC. And I'm like, no. Let's not do that. They like, no, man, but we value what you do.
Yeah.
You know, and I met Jace one from buying music from buying vinyl from him. And Jason them got a following like crazy. Like, and their value, he was just like, he paid a lot of money for some stuff that I was just like, Jay, I can't charge you that, man. Like, but he wanted to. And he was like, yo, I'm paying for us. He basically said the same thing. Like, yo, the value, man, like the value means everything. Oh, like you mean everything to me, and I should mean everything to you. Like,
right.
It's a value in us.
I mean, I'm sure he could have probably found those records somewhere else, maybe online or whatever. But he saw that you had them.
I was selling them myself.
Yeah,
direct to supply direct to consumer. Like he was just,
and he wanted to be like, I appreciate you directly.
Exactly.
Like
exactly.
You can't really do that. Like buying, it's cool to buy stuff in a record store, but you can't really thank the artist.
And that was another time. Now we have the internet. Now you can actually talk to people. Like, this is teaching me how to be talk to people who support what I do. And sometimes you run into assholes, but I have to learn to deal with it. So just like I run into assholes on the road, man. Like, I done been in fights,
right.
Guns pulled, everything, but God willing, nothing ain't happened. But you have to learn how to deal with the public, because contrary to what we feel, and not, we are public figures. Don't mean that we famous, all of us. I'm not famous, but people do recognize me. I'm a public figure. So that's what I told you earlier. Like, with music, man, if somebody don't like something, it might get under my skin, but this is what goes with that.
Yeah.
This is what goes with you doing a podcast. You might have 100 people like, yo, woo, yeah, Kate. And then you might have one idiot that's like, this show sucks. And it's just like,
yeah,
yo,
man, one person be like, ah.
Yeah. And that's why I say all that to say too, man. Like, ain't no such thing as always winning, man. Like, it's winning and there's losing. There's ups, there's downs. There's some people gonna like you for the most part if you're doing what's true to what you do. But you're still gonna have one or two people that's gonna be like, man, you're so it's all right. And you just gotta eat it.
Yeah, it's nice to see people put value back into like their own music like that. I felt like for a long time, and I think this is also applies to the DJs too.
Right.
Because I used to DJ a lot here in Detroit too, and we got to the point where that sort of like the customer is always right sort of thing was too much, and
and devaluing the DJ as well. Like,
yeah,
I'm like, I gotta tell kids that wasn't born before this thing was popping, like, yo, the DJ is first always, right? And they're like, nah, no baby. I'm like, you won't have no music played. I said, put it like this: you slap a DJ or disrespect the DJ. That's usually most DJs are part of a crew.
Yeah.
Around the country, Canada to US to UK to you blackball. Like, I'm trying to explain this. Like, yo, you beat up a DJ and you see what happens. I'm telling you not to. Like, don't disrespect the DJ because they play your music. But not only that, man, they are the original MC. They spoke without speaking.
Yeah,
because they made people feel good and dance with the records they were spinning. The MC came second. This is where the music business came in and switched it around. They played shells with it. They shelled it around, the shell game around, and now the MC is first, and the DJ is always secondary in the music business. Yeah,
and I always hated it because it was just like, I just saw like artists and DJs just giving their power away just to like,
Mm-hmm.
because they feel like they have to do that to stay on, and
Yeah,
and then next thing you know, DJs are becoming, jukeboxes, and people can talk to them any sort of way about, and you're
yeah.
like, yo, yo,
Not
yo.
anymore. Yo, it's a lot different now, especially like I said with the social media and the internet. You have to be careful, and it's usually the younger guys, but you have a few cats that slip through the cracks. That's from my era, and get disrespectful with DJs. But yo, disrespect a DJ, a respectful DJ as well, and see what happens. Like you will get banned on the whole planet. You won't be doing shows. You won't be nowhere. Like the DJ always had the power. It's just it went through chambers. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I explained that to the younger artists. Like, yo, man, like always be humble, man. Like, and always respect the DJ because they play your music. And that's all I tell them. I don't wag my finger at them or nothing. I just let them know, like, be mindful who you coming at, and because the DJ, all he got to do, they all friends, man, or they have connections, or they in a record pool, and all it takes is a word.
And I think during this pandemic, like I kind of fell in love with records and DJing all over again because
Right.
it exposed the people who are just there for the money and whatnot, as opposed to the people who just have a genuine love for the music.
Right.
And people had to do what they had to do just to get by during the pandemic. So people started, building live streams and whatnot. And you saw the people who were the most entertaining were the people who had the best records or had the
Right.
most knowledge about the records, and that really sort of, like, I'm watching these streams and I'm on Discogs, like putting stuff on my want list and everything, and I'm like, it's an education, and I'm like, yo, I miss this, dude. I miss education.
They link this to the live stream, like, that would have been like me just trying to starting a DJ because the pandemic hit. People would have looked at me like, even though that's my background, I started DJing,
Yeah.
but I'm not a DJ today. You know what I'm saying? And to me, it would be disrespectful to a lot of other DJs if I don't put my work in all over again and educate myself all over again just to be respectful of something that people make a living off, man.
But see, a
Like,
lot of
don't
people
want-
did that, like when like technology and laptops and Serato came by. You're like, woo! Look at all these people who aren't
Like,
DJing.
oh, you don't even need beats no more. You could do beats yourself. I'm like, nah. Like, I come from DITC. Like, all these guys taught themselves every machine that came out. They didn't go to school. They didn't go to DeVry. They didn't go to none of these studio school. They self-taught. You know what I'm saying? And I just wouldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it'd be disrespecting myself. I consider myself a producer in a different way, but not physically on machines. And I dig for records. I could tell you about music all day, but me physically doing it just because I could cut the middleman out, nah, that's not me. That's disrespectful to the art.
And you just mentioned something that I think doesn't get talked about in hip hop so much, is like you call yourself a producer, but not like, banging on the, drum machines or whatnot. Is that the producer role, like how it is in other genres of music, where you're kind of
Right.
like, you're telling other musicians what to do, or do that better or whatever.
Right.
What's been your experience with doing that with your projects?
Well, like I said early on, I picked most of my music, depending on who I was working with at the time too, or what particular producers I was working with. But for me, it was just like, I know what I like, but then you'll get pigeonholed. You can pigeonhole yourself into getting stuck in a certain sound or what people expect from me.
Yeah.
So with the producing, other people producing me, going back to that original formula where um uh the LA posse and people like that was producing for LL, you know, they was bringing music to him and being like, yo, we picture this. Now, if you come up with a record like Candy or, you know, just a concept, this is what we hit. He either said now, he was like, yo, he built on it more and he turned it into a concept. He produced from an aspect of writing and they produced from an aspect of building the music around. And I just felt like, for me, like, damn, man, like, you know, I kind of missed that idea of, Premier never gave you a CD tape or beat tape. Premier did everything from scratch. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
that's what I heard. He's never somebody who just made beats all day. Everything he made was specifically for that person.
Organic, specifically for that person. Like, I mean, and this was before me, but yo, when he did the water sample with "Come Clean" and J. Yo, he, I mean, and he's done that time and time again. But when he did that particular record at that time, I was just like, who the
Yeah, yo, that still cracks heads to this day, man.
oh man, and the how he would precision find the right scratch to scratch in and fly in, and you know, that's producing. You know what I'm saying? And also J. Roof's producing because he had to write around what they done. You know what I'm saying? Or he probably had to readjust it. You know what I'm saying? Once they got it laid down. And I found out later on working with Cream, when he did My World, he didn't like it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I was just like, nah, I got something for this. And I was like, yo, just leave me alone for like 30, 45 minutes. And he went out, got him some weed and some Guinness stouts and whatever he was doing. And came back and I told him I was ready and I laid my verses. And, and Preem is hands on with all of that. Like me, Jay, Nas, Big, I from what I understand, Jay don't like to be stopped and nothing. Like Jay has a particular way of, but Preem would tell you, nah, I don't like the way you worded that. Hit it again. You know what I'm saying? So he's 200% serious about what he does. And like I said, when he did Come Clean, though, man, that blew my mind because, I seen him do a lot of stuff. I seen him do a lot of different artists, but at that point, I figured like he can't beat himself, and he did. He kept beating himself. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Even after the Come Clean and the J. Rule album, which to me is a masterpiece. Everything on there is incredible. Everything.
Everything.
Man.
Is there any producers that you've never worked with that you would like to, or didn't get a chance to ever work with?
He's a musician as well as he's a producer, musician. Timberland. I would love to work with Timberland. Like the stuff. Now, I'm talking about Timberland, Squeeze First, Ask Questions Last, Hova records. Like, dun, dun, dun. Like, he does things with his mouth and then he'll lay it down and play it out on the pads and like dirt off his shoulder. Like he did this with his mouth and then was like, oh shit, I got an idea. That record and the drums and the sounds that he put together to play exactly how he played it, beatboxing. Like, so yeah, Timberland was one of those dudes. Dame Grease got a grittiness to him that I love what he did with DMX. You know what I'm saying? And Dame is still around. Like Dame's still getting busy, but things that people would have been like, word, like I don't see that. And I'm like, well, you ain't looking hard enough. Because
Like you,
Timberland
like you see
is
it,
a
like
hip
you
hop
see it in
head.
your mind.
Yeah, yeah, like Timberland is a hip hop head.
Oh yeah,
Yo, even the stuff he did with Nelly Furtado and Justin Timberlake, I would have rhymed over that shit.
yeah, yeah.
I just he just has a spice to him. Like he has he has this yo, he just got style to him. There's something about him, the way he puts music together. You know what I'm saying? And I think he played excuse me, the Ludacris record for Jay, but Jay didn't pick that. Yo, dude is a genius. You understand? Like these is people I know I can put something together with and it'll come out amazing.
To kind of start closing on this conversation. What are you working on these days? What you been up to?
Um, Breathing, man, just breathing. I had to breathe, like contrary to what everybody was going through. I sort of thrived in the pandemic. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, um, just breathing. Like people was asking for music, and I was just like, I didn't want to talk. Obviously, it was nothing else to talk about. So I definitely would have spoke about the pandemic. I didn't want to do that. I felt like people was going through it. I felt like I wasn't going through it, but I was part of it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't feel the direct effects of, so to speak, in my mind of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm part of it. I have to wear my mask and all of that. You know what I'm saying? Decide if I'm gonna take the shot or not, or I'm going through everything everybody else go through. But I just ain't want to make no music at that time, man. Like now I'm itching. Like it's time for me to, people giving me music now. I'm like, you know, I'm doing features and I'm giving people great verses, and I'm like, well, I just gave somebody a hell of a song out in Australia. And I'm like, man, let me get back to work, man, because it's time.
Yeah, that felt good. You're like,
Yeah,
let's get it cracking.
yeah, yeah. And I had pressure on myself too. I wanted to have an album done by my 50th, but it wasn't in the cards, man. Like it wasn't time yet. So now it's time to start working again.
Word, word, word. Before we get out of here, sometimes I like to ask this question, just kind of close things out. What's, and I haven't actually asked this to anybody in a long time. I used to do this a lot on this podcast. Like, what's a bit of a nugget of knowledge from your life that anybody listening to this, it doesn't matter what walk of life they come from, could sort
Mhm.
of, appropriate into their own lives?
We don't know everything. We don't know everything. We always forever a student. This is what I tell people, and that's what I tell younger people as well. Like, yo, you forever a student, right? They're like, what you mean? I'm like, never stop learning. Like, I can learn from you, and you can learn from me. But we forever students in life.
Yeah.
Like, you never know more than, even if you think you do, you don't know more than anybody. Like, we all go through uh being human beings and not being perfect, and so we students of life, man. Like you never stop being a student. That's why the legend thing is hard for me to swallow, man. Like I'm not done yet.
You're not even done yet.
Yeah,
But I gotta
man.
give
Like,
you your flowers while you're still here, man.
okay. Nah, I appreciate it. I just, yo, I never, I'll say thank you and humble myself all day with that notion, but I don't call myself no legend. Like, look anywhere, ask anybody. Like, I'm just like, well, word.
Well, that's
Like,
fine, man.
I
We'll keep
appreciate
telling you you're a legend. You don't have to
it.
say.
Yeah, yeah. I just don't. Cause I'm still like, damn, man. Like, I ain't transcended yet in this music. Like, I still have some in me. the window is small, but I still have something in me to you heard Pharaoh's 13 album?
Not a few of the joints, man, and it sounds incredible.
Man, he got me stuck right now. Like I threw my middle finger up to him and cursed him on the phone, like, yo, man. Even though this is a project in the making he's been doing for the past 10, 15 years, like the ideas and stuff. So I was there and I know about him. I heard different musics and mixes. But I'm like, yo, this dude transcended. Like, I put him in there with M, I put him in there with J, I put him in there with Nas, I put him in there with Thought, I put him in there with G-Rap, Kane, Rock Kim, like March. And that's my sensei. He put me on. So I'm just like, yo, how do you do it, man? He's just like, man, I'm drinking bourbon right now. I don't want to hear that shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
but it's crazy.
Oh, and I'm like, yo, how do you do it?
Yeah, but it's nuts that there's been these artists who, we saw it these one times put out these classic records, but then later on put out these amazing other things. Like you have someone like LP where you're like, everybody was a big like company. We loved Company Flow. We loved his solo, but then he went into this whole other level with Run the Jewelz, and you're like, holy shit!
Yeah. Like, I'm proud of him for that. Like I believe somebody I have to scroll down my IG page, but somebody put it up and I reposted it. So me and Big L did London, a spot in London in '97, I believe. Yeah, because it was for the Jewelz promotion. And LP was there. It's me, him, and LP in the picture, and somebody else, I think it's DJ at the time. And I'm like, damn, like, this is LP. Like, somebody's like, yo, look at him close. And I'm like, it's Richie Cunningham. I'm like, oh, wow, that's LP. He in a picture with me and L. Or we in a picture together in London. I'm like, wow. And he went on. I'm telling my nephew, like, yo, he come from a group called Company Flow, and he's a multi-platinum artist with Killer Mike now, and they sell out concerts and they do big. He's not understanding what I'm telling him. I'm like, yo, he reinvented himself.
Yeah,
it's hard to do.
Yeah, and it's nuts too. Like, there's been so many like instances of like it can happen. Like, you don't even have to put these boundaries. Like my homie Fat Father.
Yeah,
like my homie Fat Father. He's been doing music for a long time. Always great. And it's funny. Like, recently he put out a record called Soccer Dad, produced by Foul Mouth. And there was one of the hip hop websites was like, put him on the list of like, top 6 new artists to check out, and he's like in his 40s.
Yeah, but see, that's the gift and the curse of reinvention, social media, the internet. I wish we had this 30 years ago. Like, you know how much advantage I would have took of the internet back then. Like, so now I'm playing catch up as best as I can, but I just can't. I have to stop saying I can't, but I have to not look at it as I'm not stretching my boundaries, as you said.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy. Like, yo, you have to look at it like it's music. And if they don't like it, so what? Or if I don't like it, it don't hurt to try it.
Or who cares how old you are? What your age is,
Yeah, like, I'm like, yo, man, like, shit, Paul McCartney and them, and Sting and them still sell out. Like, they probably grossed the most money in the past 10 years concert wise. Like, these guys is in their 70s. Like, Mick Jagger and them, they in their 70s, 80s, man. Right. And they gross the most in concert venues.
Yeah.
Madonna, they gross the most in concert venues. Like, so I just don't understand that. I'm not paying attention to people too much no more. So
that's good.
I'm not straying away from my core, but um, I remember somebody saying, and this is just, a different day, it's a different generation, but they said, yeah, Drake basically invented the harmonize. I'm like, I had to scratch my head, like, nah, he ain't invent the harmonize. He's probably the most successful at it. But like I said, Kaz is still alive. Some of the Fantastic Five. These is guys before me. I harmonized on my first album a little bit. Like, no, man. Like,
Even
do your homework.
even Fonte from Little Brother, man, and he was doing it before Drake. You know,
CeeLo from Goody Mob. He reinvented himself with Danger Mouse.
Yeah.
Like, yo, I'm like, nah. I said, yo, I like some of Drake's stuff, but I don't care how many number ones he has, man. Don't try to rewrite history by saying he started something. Like, no. He just continued something and made it bigger.
Yeah, definitely. So before we get out of here, like, do you have any final thoughts?
Hopefully we can tour again, man. I'm looking to getting back on the road, man. Like, I'm one to pop up at Finesse with DJ and do gigs sometimes. So I will pop up to Denver or LA or Cincinnati or something like that. I'm looking forward to doing that, man. March got the latest project out, which I'm like, damn, man. They getting festivals thrown at them, that's opening back up. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna definitely pop up one of these states. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about out of the country, but one of these states, because I want to see this 13 thing that him, Daru, and Marcus do by themselves. 3-man, like 2-man, 3-man band. You know what I'm saying? A guitarist and a drummer and an MC, and I believe Boogie Blind might join them on some dates, the DJ. To work his DJ routine into it, but I'm looking forward to doing shows and seeing people do shows, man. Like, I miss that.
Yeah. Same.
Like, I did my last show actually with Pharaoh, like the week the pandemic shut everything down. So we got back from Chicago and everything was shut down ever since.
Yeah. It's been a hell of a year and a half, yeah.
And but it's an experience. It's a learning experience for all of us, man. And now I'm seeing dudes is hacking the meat, 23% of the meat that's being processed on the planet. They done cyber hacked it. I'm like, yo.
What the fuck?
I seen it on the news today, man. I'm like, so most of the poultry, pork, and the chicken that passes through, the U.S., man, it's been hacked, and they was trying to hold them for ransom. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, people don't understand things are not over yet. Like, it's far from over. It's a matter of fact, life as we know it a year and a half ago is different. It'll never be that ever again. What we know prior to that, up to that point, will never be again. So we got to prepare for what's coming, whatever that means, whatever it is.
Well, it's been great talking with you, man. Like I said, you're one of my favorites of all time, and it's always good to talk with you, man. Like,
glad you're okay, man. You had me a little shook, like, when you was like, I'm not feeling so great. I'm like, man, I ain't trying to hear no other peers go down and smoke, man. Like,
nah.
But
Man.
I didn't even put it in the air like that. I was just like, you got a cold or something.
Yeah, it was just me being exhausted, man. But yeah, it's about it. But I'm good.
Listen to your body, man.
Yeah.
So I look at that later on too. Listen to your body. When your body tell you, yo, chill out. Like, you gotta chill out.
I totally listen to my body, and like, and always, self-care is so important to me now.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I believe me going to the doctor, getting annuals for the past 20 years kept me alive as well. That's something, we don't do as black men and as men in general. we scared to go to the doctors. But I've been going to the doctors for annuals. I believe I got my, prostate checked at 40. It's about that time again. But only because I told him I had my uncle had passed away from it years ago. So he was like, "Is it a history?" I'm like, "Nah," but he like, "Well, I still gotta do the prostate exam." I was like, "Whatever, man. If we touch it, let's do it." Like I ain't thinking no other way, But health, man, health as well.
Hell yeah. Now, where can people go online to, follow you, get more information about, what you're up to?
Oh man, I sound like a commercial now. I'm on IG at OCDITC. My Twitter is the real OCIZZLE. The real CIZZLE. The real O Sizzle. I'm just catching up to speed with all of this social media stuff still, man. And I've been doing it for quite a while now, but one thing go out the door, something new come in. It's like, damn, like the kids be like, "Yo, you don't know about this app?" It's like, yeah, nah.
Yeah.
So they like, "Yo, you just press that and you in another country." It's just like, oh man, all right, show me. You know what I'm saying? So just trying to keep up with what's going on as far as like, with the internet and stuff like that. So yeah, at OCDITC is my IG and the real O Sizzle is my Twitter.
All right, man. It's been great talking with you, man. Thanks for being on.
Appreciate you, brother. Like, I'm glad you're okay, and I'm glad we had this combo again.
Thank you for listening to the Fresh is the Word podcast, hosted and produced by myself, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier, empowered by Anchor at anchor.fm/Fresh is the Word. Fresh is the Word theme music provided by Steve O. You can find more of his productions at iamsteveo.bandcamp.com, and that's EYEAMSTEVEO.bandcamp.com. Fresh is the Word is available on all major streaming platforms. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. If you want to support Fresh is the Word, please consider pledging via Patreon at patreon.com/Fresh is the Word. Follow Fresh is the Word on social media on Twitter at Fresh is the Pod, on Instagram at Fresh is the Word Podcast, and join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Fresh is the Word. For more information about Fresh is the Word and our other podcasts, Breaking Records and Renaissance Soul, and a collection of pop culture articles and reviews, please visit freshesthepodcast.com. Thank you for listening and your support. Goodbye and good night.
Fresh is the word.